Welcome to the 17th Jackie's Proof Animals Have Souls and Psychic show, produced through Passionate World Talk Radio, a subsidiary of Global Media Network. I'm a psychical researcher, passionate vegetarian of about 30 odd, maybe 40 years, or for compassionate reasons, author of 3 books, Moses and Jesus the Shamans, Mediums, and my Proof Animals Have Souls series. Proof Animals Have Souls and 500 plus celebrities go vegetarian. They're ebooks and paperbacks, all on Amazon and other online bookstores. My website is JackieJonesHunt.com. JackieJonesHunt.com. And my email for contact and comments, views, questions, which will be taken up in future shows, is JackieJonesHunt@gmail.com. So it's Jack with the IE, JonesHunt@gmail.com. I welcome listeners' comments and questions because they are the meat for, or vegetarian meat for future shows. So today I introduce my guest, medium Karen Wood, who lives in East Sussex, England. Welcome, Karen, to the show.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
That's great. Thank you. Karen offers mediumship to churches. She does private sittings through Zoom and WhatsApp and one-to-one in person. And she teaches seminars in Wales, Cornwall and the south coast of England. Karen's been a medium for 30 years. She's a mum, and she and her partner have several children and plentiful grandchildren. And Oscar the Dachshund is also a beloved member of the family. And Karen says she's very family orientated, and that it was curiosity that took her to her first Spiritualist Church in West Wickham in England. Karen mentioned before the show that she sees a whole range of spirit birds and spirit animals, which I'm sure throughout the show she will mention and share with listeners. So Karen has a website which is karenwood.org, and she can be contacted by email at karen@karenwood.org. So Karen, I was just thinking of some questions to ask you to share with listeners. To begin with, would you say your abilities are clairvoyance or seeing, clairaudience, hearing, claircognizance, knowing, clairsentience, sensing, trance? How would you describe yourself as a medium, please?
Well, Jackie, it's interesting because I have lots of those gifts that you've just described, because mediums use all sorts. We are clairvoyant, we are clairsentient, we are clairaudient. First and foremost, I got sensing, which is the clairsentience. That was the first thing that came forward with me. But I am clairvoyant and clairaudient. So I see, I feel, I hear, and then when it all comes together, that's when it's just like a fusion, like when it all comes together. So you feel like you're having a conversation about someone in the spirit world.
Well, that's really interesting. Thank you. Were you born with this mediumistic gift, or did you feel it developed later in life, or a combination of both?
Well, it's my belief that that mediums are born and not made, but I didn't realise I was mediumistic really until adult years. I'd always had a bit of an intuition as a child, but it came to the fore in my late 20s, just after I became a mum. So it was interesting that all those things came together. But I'd always sort of had an interest in sort of psychic things and mediumistic things. And I even walked past a Spiritualist church when I was a child and wanted to go inside, but I didn't. And it was only later that a very good friend of mine, took me into a Spiritualist church.
That's interesting. Do you see or sense or hear spirit animals?
I do. Do you know what? I absolutely love it when the animals come through, because in my experience, lots of people prefer sometimes to hear from their pets and their animals more than their family, because they love them so much. And it's lovely when I myself have received some wonderful evidence from my pets that I've lost in the spirit world. But when you get animals that come through and you see them, and they sort of, sometimes they come and stand by the person that I'm talking to, you get a sense of that animal just standing by them, and they give you a sense of what their life was like, how much that, and the love, honestly, you just can't describe what that love's like. It's just amazing.
I think people who haven't got an animal companion, well, an animal child really, because they are defenceless, they're innocent, they're loving, they would do anything for you. You know, they'd live in a tent with you, they'd live in a mansion with you, they'd live homeless with you, just to be with their human parent. And I think when people haven't had an animal, they don't really realise the depth of love that the animal shares with you, and that brings out in you to share back usually.
And also what's amazing is their intuition that they have.
Yes.
I mean, you probably know it with your dogs, but if I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, or I've had a bit of a tough day, my dog Oscar knows, and he comes up, he snuggles up, he jumps up on the sofa with me, snuggles up, puts his head on my lap and looks at me as if to say, "Are you all right, Mum?" You know, it's just those expressive eyes.
Have you had a bad day, Mum? I know, they're loving
so
it. I know.
They have intuition, which is wonderful.
And then there is also animals. There's a book written by Professor Rupert Sheldrake about pets who know when their human is coming home, pets that walk up the hall and pets that wait at the door. And they seem to know. And it's not from the sound of your car 5 miles away. They just know that you're coming home. So there's a lot of psychic abilities there, and their senses are so heightened. I'm sure most pets see spirit, if not all of them. What type of animals and birds have you actually seen in the spirit world?
Well, it's interesting because I've seen lots of dogs and lots of cats, but can I share an experience that I had which was very personal to me?
Of course, yes.
When I lost my dog Lisa, now Lisa was a crossbreed, and it seems to be that all my dogs have big ears. Oscar's got big ears now, and Lisa had quite big ears. And it was interesting you said when dogs come to meet you. Well, Lisa would always come into the hallway when we came in. And on this particular occasion, when she passed to the spirit world, I was still, even with my knowledge, I was still grieving. And I'd come home, and as I opened the door, or as I looked through the door, because I had a glass window in my door, I could see her. I could see her ears, I could see her face, and it was almost as if she was still coming to greet me as well. And that really helped me, because I just know that she's about, and that she's okay, that she's absolutely fine, with all the other animals in the spirit world.
I know, that's wonderful. So do you see birds as well?
Yes, definitely. It's interesting because I quite often bring birds through, and pigeons. I sometimes get a lot of granddads that used to keep pigeons, because my grandfather kept pigeons. So it's interesting that pigeons come through, and also sometimes people have kept birds, budgerigars and things like that, and they come through. Or aviaries. I've seen aviaries full of finches and like little canaries and all sorts of things. So yes, I have. I've brought I brought that memory back. Yes. Do
they seem to communicate telepathically? Do they try and put their feelings on you of their love?
Yes, definitely. It's definitely the feeling. I get that sense, especially with the dogs and cats. I really get that sense of loyalty. that sense of love. But with a cat, it's funny because sometimes I can see in my mind's eye what the cat used to do if they were sort of like an independent sort of strutty cat, or if they were a curl-up lap cat, because you'd see that scenario, what that cat used to do. But with the dogs, you just feel that loyalty, that love. It's it can be really quite overwhelming sometimes. It's lovely.
Do you have a spiritual message you'd like to share with listeners?
I would just say to all listeners, keep an open mind on all things sort of spiritual or mediumistic, and in life to develop your own spirit and just be the best that you can be in your own life, and don't worry too much about what others think or what others say, because I think we get caught up with that sometimes. So I think it's important to be our own person and live our own lives the way that we want to be.
Not to try and impress others, and not to be victims of criticism from others, but just to be the best that they can. That sounds a lovely message. What keeps you motivated definitely in your work as a medium? It's my passion. I think when I walked into a spiritualist church many years ago, I felt I'd come home. It felt right. And when I started the pathway of mediumship, it completed me. It's who I am. I love bringing through people to let people know that there is no death. That even though that physical body is gone, that love is still there. And when you can feel, and when it feels almost like, you're having another conversation with a spirit communicator, be it human or animal, when they come through. And you just feel that presence, and just seeing that person change from having like that realization that there's more to this life than we think. Yes.
And that's what keeps me motivated.
I think of my earliest memories as a child of suddenly realizing I have a life, and the whole expanse of life ahead of me. And it's like you've just touched down and become aware and conscious of it. And I imagine that that's what it's like when you become, you move on, make your transition into the non-physical realms of energy that cannot be destroyed, that people go on. And I suppose we just wake up and think, well, we've touched down again, and we start a new chapter.
Absolutely.
So as we didn't know about the gift of this life, and we wake up here, it's like we'll just wake up again in the next life. That's how I see it.
I always say to people, just imagine that invisible cord that is still that love be in there. There's a line in a hymn, love be the tie that binds. And that love is still there, and we can remember that feeling of that love and that connection that we had with our loved ones in the spirit world. And they move close to us, and they support us, and they just say, we're still here, we're still giving you that support. But they can't. I think one of the most important things that we have to remember is they cannot live our lives for us. We're here living our life, but they can just give us that support as if they were here with us, and just sending that love.
And that's little Eric, who's sitting beneath the table. We have 5 Jack Russells: Eric, Bob, Jack, Charlie, Lizzie. Eric, Bob, Jack, Charlie, Lizzie. That's 5 of them. And they're all sitting right under my feet, right under the table. And Eric just wanted to chip in and compliment you for what you were saying.
That's lovely. Well, that's interesting, because Oscar's just popped in the room as well. He'd been in the conservatory and he's just come in the room. So he wanted to come in and join the conversation as well.
That's excellent. So, why is working in churches and centres important to you?
Well, I think it was because it's the first place I started. It sort of awakened the awareness within me, and I still want to do that for other people. And it's the first point of call. People see an advert for a spiritualist church, and it's not just a place where you can go and talk to the dead. It's a place of community. It's a church. It's where we celebrate the religion of spiritualism. It's where we can connect with the God and the spirit within us. So the churches will always be important to me. I mean, I do lots of work all over online at the moment because of lockdown, and also in centres and places like that. But the churches, because it's where I started, it will always be important to me.
Well, thank you very much for that. And the time has absolutely flown, and I'm sure we can have a talk again in the future, because there's lots more things that we can cover. So thank you, Karen, and thank you very much for giving your time today. So it's a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.